Welcome to the third in a series of webinars about the Milwaukee County Land Information Office's interactive mapping website. My name is Brad Bloomer. I'm a GIS analyst with the Land Information Office. If at any time you have any questions, please either type them into the chat window or raise your hand, and I'll try to keep an eye on the window and answer questions as they come up. Also, these webinars are designed to be short and informal, since I know everybody's time is valuable. The Land Information Office is charged with developing and maintaining GIS applications within Milwaukee County, and one of the major uses of our website is to measure and draw in the space on the map. So that's what we're going to go through today. These webinars are meant to be a two-way street. We want to know how you use the site, and in turn, we'll help demonstrate the best ways to leverage the site for your workflows. So from that point of view, I'd like to poll the attendees and get a clearer picture of your industry. So let me launch this poll. And I realize the poll results are going to be pretty weak, but I guess we'll see what we get anyway. Okay, we'll close this poll and see the results. Okay, one from real estate and one from engineering. Okay, perfect. So I'll kind of try to come up with examples perhaps that are more along those lines if I can. Let me get back to sharing my screen. Okay, there we go. So today we're going to talk about three related topics, which is measuring, buffers, and markup. But what's the difference between those? First, measuring is using the tools on the site to draw a line or a polygon, and then getting information about the length of the area. I think that's pretty straightforward. Buffers are lines or areas that are automatically generated by the system around specified areas. So if you want, it's essentially a ring around a point or around a polygon or around a line. And finally, markups are simply drawings, which can be shapes, lines, points, and text, anything you want to put on the map to mark it up. So the reason that we've grouped these together into one webinar is because they're all kind of interrelated in the fact that they're graphical in some way, and in some cases can be interchangeable. You can convert a measure into a drawing, for example. So after hearing those descriptions, I'd like to see if there's anybody who's used these tools already on the website. So I'm going to open up another poll here. So which of these functions have you used, if any? And it's quite possible that you certainly haven't used them all, which is fine. Whoops, let me silence my phone, excuse me. Okay, let me close this poll. And it looks like this is new territory, so that's good. We'll get into everything here and hopefully have enough time to demonstrate some of the functionality. So with that, I'm going to go over to the website, which, as always, is available at the Land Information Office's website, which is county.milwaukee.gov/MCLIO. Right on the front page, you can click on Launch the Viewer, and that'll bring up the McCandless website. This is the starting page. You see the entire county. I'm just going to arbitrarily zoom in someplace on the map, since it doesn't really matter for these examples. Here's a residential neighborhood, and I will turn on the layer list, which is available through the information pane through this arrow on the left. And I'm going to turn on cadastral because I want to be able to see the outlines of these parcels. So the first function we're going to go through is measuring. And measuring is pretty straightforward. You have two different things that you can measure. You can measure distance, which is a line or a shaped line, or area. First I'll do distance. Let me pan to an open spot on the map. This looks like a park here. So if I just want to measure one straight line, all you have to do is click once, click twice, and then you'll have the measurement of this line. Now I only clicked once for each point, which gave me one line, but I still have the option of continuing my line. And you'll notice as I pause moving the mouse around, I'll get a little pop-up that comes up and says what the distance is. So if I want to add a second line here, I'll click again, and then if I want to finish this measurement, I'll double click. So there we have it, 3 sections. They're each labeled with the distance of each. Now, let's say you drew this measurement, but you didn't want to use feet. That was a mistake. Fortunately, you can change that. Just go up to into the measurement information window and change from feet to yards. This will automatically update. Or meters, kilometers, miles, nautical miles. And let's say you want to make another measurement. Click on the distance, click once, click again, and finish. But, oh, it got rid of my other measurement. I want to keep that. Well, what you can do is click on the Add as Drawing button. So if you click Add as Drawing, it doesn't appear that anything changes on the map, but what's different is that if you look over in the information pane, there's now a layer called Graphics Layers, and Measurement is on there. So you can control it just like any other layer. You can turn it on, you can turn it off, you can change transparency, that's about all you can do. You can zoom to it as well. So this way you can keep adding measurements by clicking on distance, finishing your measurement, click Add as Drawing, and it'll keep adding them into the measurements area here. You can also erase individual measurements by using the Erase tool, or you can clear them all off. Similarly, you can use the Area Measure tool. Let's say I want to measure the area of this intersection. So I will click on each corner. Let me zoom in a bit. Click, click, and then double click to finish. Now I don't want this in yards, I want this in feet. Okay, so that gets me the perimeter. The perimeter is 239 feet, but the area, let's say I want in square miles. All right, that wouldn't make sense in this case since it's 0. I'll change it back to feet. So you can see the total area is 3,569 square feet, and each of these corners now has a measurement. And similarly, you can add this as a drawing as well, and it'll get saved into measurements. So that's the basic functionality of drawing measurements. There is one more thing you can do. Let me draw an area here again. It's hard to see on here, but I'm holding the control key, and this will automatically connect or snap to corners. So let's say I want to snap to this corner. Okay, I'll snap there, can snap to this corner, and that way there's a nice clean line in between these. So that's the control key. Let me draw area again. So, and oddly enough, if you draw over a measured area, it'll kind of invert this space here. So there's not really any reason to do that, but it's something to watch out for. It'll do the calculation and actually remove this space. So I just would recommend avoiding that altogether. So that's the measure tools. They're all really simple. It's basically the easiest, quick, and dirty way to get a measurement. Next, what I'm going to go to is buffering. So buffering is, as I said earlier, adding an area around a polygon or a point. And there's a couple of different ways to do that. First, I'm going to go into the Selections tab and demonstrate buffering around a shape that I create. So let's say that there is a fire hydrant right on this corner here, and I want to contact the property owners that live around it. So I want to buffer rather than just a point selection. First, to make this easier, if you'll notice, there is a tool called results for, and that's what that means is the results for selection. So I don't want to select the subdivision name or water or condo. All I want is tax parcels. So right now it would select all of those, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to hit select none. That'll clear that off, and I just want tax parcels. So if I use this, excuse me, if I use the point identify tool normally and clicked on a polygon, all I would get is the results for tax parcels, and all I would get is this this polygon because that's all I clicked on. But let's say I want, like I said, there's a hydrant on the corner, or I'm going to put up a street light and I want to contact everybody that lives within 100 feet of that. Simply click on a point and I hit the buffer shape checkbox here, make sure that's on, hit point, and click on the map, and it'll ask you, what do you want your buffer distance to be? I'm going to keep this in feet, and I'm going to say 100 feet. You can preview it and say, okay, that's a little bit too much. I don't want to contact this property owner. I'm going to do 75 feet. Preview that. Okay, that looks good. And you have an option in here to add the buffer to a markup. Let me first show you what happens if you don't do that. I'm going to hit OK. We get 3 results. These 3 properties are within 75 feet of that point, but I don't see that circle anymore because I didn't add it as markup. So let me do that again. I'm going to clear these results by hitting clear results. I will click again, hit point identify, 75 feet, add buffer to markup. Now you see it as a markup. If I go really quickly, let me close the results. Here we go, graphics layers, drawings, that'll turn that buffer on and off. Let me go back to view results. Now I can see all 3 of these. So that's, you can buffer any of these shapes. If you can draw a freehand line and buffer a shape around it. I'm actually going to demonstrate a line here. So let's go with the engineering example. Let's say that we need to tear up a water main along this entire street here, and I want to contact or get information about the properties. First, I'll draw a line, make sure buffer shape is on, and draw down this whole block. Double click to finish. I'll say 75 feet. Preview that buffer. Okay, that looks pretty good. Add the buffer to the markup. And there we go. And all these parcels are now in the results. If you've attended our previous webinars, you'll remember that we've talked about the difference between results and selections. So these results are the result of a search for properties. It doesn't mean that they're selected though. We do have that option, and I'm going to say select all. That selects all these parcels that touch this buffer. And now that these are selected, you can see information about them. One, you can view that in a table. Here's all of the properties. And another great thing you can do is run reports. So let's say I want to actually mail all these people. You want to generate mailing labels. Click on mailing label, occupants, output format, PDF, run the report. And this will generate a PDF mailing label list that you can print off onto sticky labels and mail all of these property owners. Download the report. There we go. Okay, I don't believe that current occupant should actually be on there. I actually thought it was names, but regardless, you can email or you can send mail to all the property owners, or you can export to a shapefile, export to CSV and use it in Excel. You can just view the entire table here. So using this buffer function is really handy. But let's say you actually want to buffer an existing property and you don't really want to draw around it. First, let me clear all this off, clear the drawing. And let's go to let me pan over a bit and go to this park. Oh, let me find another park. Okay. Here we have a park that has kind of a convoluted border. It's actually made of several parcels, but I'll just use one as an example. First, I want to select the park, and you can do that using the regular identify feature. You don't need a buffer at this point. Say I just want to identify this one property, and here we go. But I actually want to select parcels that are around this one in a certain radius. So right click on this result and say buffer feature. So let's say I want to get results for 100 feet around here. And here's the same list, results for. Do I want to know information about water around here? No, I don't. Actually, I only want taxed parcels. So I'll select none just to clear them all off and then do taxed parcels. And again, I want to see this buffer and I can preview it. So you can see it's a really odd shape. You wouldn't want to draw it by hand, but it's great for buffering around odd shapes, around parcels, around anything really, anything that you can select. I'll hit OK, and we'll get our results. I'm going to select all of these so we can see them. Here's all the parcels that are within 100 feet of that particular park. So again, the way to do that is to first select a parcel or a feature, doesn't matter if it's a parcel or not, by using one of the identify tools. I keep turning this off, excuse me. All right, select, point. Here we go, selected here, and then you right click to go to buffer feature. So I went through that pretty fast. Are there any questions about that before I move on to markups? Okay. All right, now I'll move on to markups. Because I've selected so much stuff here, I'm just going to reload the map. It'll just be a little easier. Okay, so the last couple tools we've used are, pretty robust and they're accurate in terms of actually being able to use measurements, use buffers. But let's say you want something that isn't so accurate, but you're trying to demonstrate something on the map. Let's say, for example, you own this property. Here I'm going to turn on topographic data. And what that shows is the actual buildings that are on a property. And let's say I'd like to build a fence around the back of this yard. Well, let me go into tasks. Tasks contains all of the drawing tools, and they're over here in Create. So there's four different basic types of shapes. One is point. That's pretty obvious. It's a point. It has no length and it has no width. There's the line, which has length but no width. And then there's any number of polygons. So even though these are a bunch of different shapes, essentially they're all just lines that are connected together into a shape. And then the last type of feature or markup you can make is a text. So let's say you want to add a tree into your backyard. Well, let me just click here and say I want that to be a tree, except I want that to look a little bigger. So I'm going to change its size. I need to click edit. All right. So if you, just like with the original measure tool, if you want to make a change, you have to actually change. Yeah, it's never too late to make a change to a markup on the map. Let me put it that way. You can always click edit, select a point. Now I know I'm editing this one. I can change the size. I can make it as big as I want. I can change the color to green because I want it to be a tree. You can change the style right in here. Cross, diamond, square. I'll keep that as a circle. And then simply click edit and you're done. It's the same with a line as well. So first you can choose right off the bat what you want, or you could always edit it later. So let's say I'd like to put in a fence. So I'm going to pick a dash styled line. I'll pick a color as dark blue, thickness of 4, and then start drawing just like you did with the measure tool. But you'll notice, unlike the measure tool, you don't get any measurements on these, and that's just because it's a drawing. That's all it is. You can use kind of the same functions. If I hit Control, you see this little circle around here tries to snap to a point, an existing point. So you could snap to this if you wanted to. If you hit Shift, it will pause the drawing. You can't really see what I'm doing yet, but you can try using Shift. Basically, Shift, Control, and Alt sometimes have functions depending on the type of shape you're drawing. So I'm going to complete this fence. And double click to finish. And there's your fence. You can also draw a rectangle or a regular polygon kind of in the same way that you would have with the measure tools. So I'm going to have the border be dark brown, the fill be light brown, and this will be for a proposed deck. And there we go. Finally, you can use the text functions, which, like the other tools, you can either pick right off the bat what kind of style you want it to be. I'll just go with Arial Black and say that this is deck. Hit enter and the markup is there. Again, I can edit it. You can see advanced label options. You can actually add feature labels. So this label is on top of a number of features, one of which is tax parcels. So let's say I want to label this based on the owner's address. You can add the label that way, hit apply. So, well, and you can change this to not say equals. So there's a lot of potential functionality in here. It all really just comes down to what you want to put on here. So that's most of the markup tools. I can demonstrate really quickly what these shapes are like. Let's say I draw an arrow. Okay, that's an arrow, but really in reality, let me edit it. It's really just made up of a bunch of different points. So you can really change it however you want. You can drag these points anywhere. And one of the excellent features with editing polygons, let me edit this deck, is that you can add points. So let me zoom in here. You'll see that this little circle pops up. That's basically saying I want to add a point here. So by clicking there, I added a point. Or let's say I want to delete a point, double click on it, and it's gone. Click, add, double click, delete. Click, add, control is snapping it to these points. So those are kind of the powerful features that aren't, they're not really obvious, but it really gives you a lot of options to tweak this however you want. Then once you have your drawings in here, you can always save this as a project and come back later. So I want to save this as project name, my deck, created by Brad, description, my deck plan. You can either share this with everyone or not, and it'll save this right onto the website, and you can always come back to it and make changes later. So that is the markup tools.